Hello.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Beautiful sound. Thank you so much for coming along today and your beautiful
Thank
music.
you.
Such a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much. Saskia, hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm going to plug this in.
Yeah.
Yeah, just okay. Recorded.
Yes, all on record. Don't you worry. We've got it all on.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming along today. Welcome to Music Industry Insights Worldwide. Today we've got such an amazing guest, Emmanuel, with us. Hi, Emmanuel. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's Saskia.
Yeah, yes.
Saskia. I'm doing very well. How are you, Saskia?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for your time, your expertise, and your beautiful music. It's such a pleasure to have you today.
My pleasure.
Do
My
you want to
pleasure.
tell us about yourself, where you're from, and what you do?
Sure. I am Emmanuel Vukovich.
Yeah,
I am a violinist, classical violinist. I live in Montreal.
yeah.
Um, I'm originally from Western Canada. My family, my parents are European, German and Croatian, so I have very strong connections to the origins of where the music that I play comes from, I would say. And I'm interested in the question today, which I think connects to our conversation and the work that you do.
Yeah.
How can I, as a performer in this time, in day and age, help conserve the tradition
Beautiful.
of I would say of beauty.
Yeah.
You said beautiful music. I would say that it definitely, and simultaneously um, give classical music today a relevant voice for the questions and the challenges of our time. So, we can say, yeah, what I want, I mean, I can leave it there. I can go into more detail, but I would say
Oh, please.
it's a question that I've been thinking about a lot, and it's definitely an important, um, it's an important challenge in the narrative. It's mostly music by dead white men. I'm a white man, and in today's world, there's a lot of questions around how do you negotiate, how do we maintain the integrity and the beauty and of the tradition,
Yes.
and conserve that tradition
Yeah.
in a world that is undergoing enormous transformation, and it's yeah, it's I don't have any. I have more questions than I have answers, but I definitely know that it's important to ask those questions.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I want to ask you, you've had music that spans Latin America, Europe,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
US,
Yeah.
you've done a lot of work across the world. Now,
Yes.
how has your heritage and your identity shaped all of that?
So my heritage is it's a good question. I would say my heritage is my mother's German,
Yeah, beautiful.
and specifically former East Germany. She's from Dresden, which is Saxon, and Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, who is considered, kind of a important an
Amazing.
important father of classical music in many ways.
Absolutely.
At least of like kind of the tradition of tonal harmony.
Yes.
Um, she comes from basically that same area where Saxon, which it's the same. So there's and I think what's important to um, to acknowledge the impulse that came through that part of the world at that time was really the Reformation of Christianity, from Catholicism. You know, you had Martin Luther and who basically, you know, postulated that every human being can have a direct connection or relationship with God independent of the Pope or of the church or of, you know, all this hierarchy. And Bach, in the same sense, when he was 33, he worked most of his life for the church, but he left for 6 years. He kind of resigned. He went to prison. He got into a huge fight, and he left the church because he said, my life mission is to reform the church through music, the way Luther had reformed church through the word. Meaning Luther rewrote kind of retranslated the Bible and restructured or challenged the kind of Catholic orthodoxy, and Bach really believed that music was the vehicle through which religion could be democratized, essentially, that this ideal. And that was really the essence of the Reformation in many ways. And so it's not a coincidence that much of the music, you know, of Western classical music comes out of that, was born as a result of that impulse. My father is Croatian. He's no longer with us, but he's Slavic, and one could say that the two streams probably in all music anywhere in the world, not just classical music or Western classical music, is one stream is music as a way of invoking kind of the divine or of something, you know, our relationship to something eternal. And the other stream is really, I would say, is dance. You know, music is there to move, we say to be moved. You can be moved internally or you can be moved in the body. So, you know, kind of folk music, peasant music that's connected to like the ritual, the ceremonies or the rites of the seasons which is very strong in like Eastern European Slavic music. So you have Bartók, a Hungarian composer who went around kind of collecting folk music all over Eastern Europe, and including the countries that were, you know, former Yugoslavia, Croatia, Serbia, which is where my father's from. So there's a very strong tradition there. So I would say that's my personal kind of background, family background. And what I've done in my life then is, or in my path, is kind of explored those two streams, expanded, you know, beyond Europe, going to traveling to Africa, going to South America, Latin America. I have not been to Asia. I have very little yet, but I hope to be able to. But I would say it's this question of identity is very, it's a very
part of you, isn't it?
Pardon?
You and your music, isn't it?
Well, because music is, you know, we say in a very cliche way, music is the universal language.
Right.
And what that, I feel, for me, what that means is that, I mean, in a way, it's not universal. In a way, every culture has their own specific dialect. And, you know, what one person hears or understands or feels through a piece of music might be very different what someone else understands or feels from that same piece of music. It's not like we all understand the same thing, but the implication is that underneath it says, music has the capacity to say something to everyone.
Yes, and it's their own unique interpretation of that music.
Yes, everyone has a different interpretation of the same piece. There's even within the same, even two violinists who studied with the same person who, you know, we all have a slightly different experience. And and language, spoken language words, which have much more direct meaning. I mean, we still understand things differently. We have understanding of different, but I would say the beauty about music is that like the experiences can be very different. Some what one person, a piece of music could make one person cry and could make another person laugh. Like, I mean, it could be that extreme. There, and so but it is the implication that there is something universal, which means that for me, and this is what I'm kind of searching for, and this is my interest in coming and speaking with you today, is that there is something, I'm going to say this in a very politically incorrect way right now, that there is the possibility for a universal identity. I don't know what that means, but we live in such in a time where everything is kind of pardon?
Polarized. It's so opposite from each other.
Polarized, exactly. Everything is so divided and so polarized, and everything is basically defined by difference, by like, how am I different from you? That's like how and I feel like what I wish for is that the conversation would be like, how can, yes, we are different. Of course, we're all different. Like every single human being is different. I don't, is my, like, but it's like, what are the things that make us human, that make us universally human? And it's like, and I don't know if, maybe identity is not the right category to, I don't like, these are questions, this is like, maybe because it's kind of like the thing that makes music a universal language. It definitely can't be described in words.
It's that beauty that draws you in, not away.
Right.
Something that it's magnetic. It brings you together. It doesn't divide us, right?
Right. Exactly.
And that's the beauty of music. And you also talk about faith and music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Plus music through faith. I was with parents.
Okay.
Communicate with them, but I could sing. My teacher noticed I could sing, so I actually was classically trained in Oxford.
Okay.
So I sang with some amazing choirs, and I must say that it really gave me a love and a passion for understanding classical music and classical composers.
Mm-hmm.
That is what tells a story from the past to now, and it's so relatable.
Right.
It's about the work that you've done and you've produced lately, because I think it's really interesting.
Huh. I would love to hear more about what that's very interesting. So I guess this is you touched on something, which is that, why we say classical music, because for me, classical is something that's timeless. Yeah. Classical means like a classic haircut, what classical means, it never goes out of style, right? Isn't that like when, so because someone is a classical music composer, it doesn't mean that they're writing Western European blah blah blah. It means that they're striving for something that is timeless and placeless and is right. I feel like that's at least that's the intention. I mean, it doesn't always succeed, but it's like they're striving for that. And I would say, I would be curious to hear more about your experience. So you sang in King's College, Oxford? Did I?
Christchurch, actually. Christchurch.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yes.
As when you were like a
child.
Yeah.
7 or 8 up until I was.
Wow.
4. Yeah.
And how was that? I'm curious. I would like to hear.
It was a big leap from where I was, coming from a background where I was, from a normal school, and I couldn't really, I didn't have the upbringing. I didn't have the same background as a lot of the other children.
Mm-hmm.
Could sing, and I just loved what I loved, and I loved doing what I did. It was hard work.
Yeah.
It was constant. There was a lot of rehearsals and training with that stuff, but it took me around the world. I met some amazing people. I sang for the Princess Diana. Bill Clinton popped over.
Wow.
This week, Michelle Obama. There's a few of them over the time, of being there as a person, and just being part of something that was bigger than myself. We sang sync placements and Spectre Morse. I don't know if you ever heard of that before.
Wow.
But a lot of this classical stuff, and understanding how classical, well, we'll say classic music or
Yeah.
classical music for me is about heritage, it's about training, it's about dedication, but
Right.
also craft, knowing your craft, learning your craft, dedicating
Yes. Yeah.
yourself to that craft,
Right.
which is
Right.
what I really appreciate about music. And it doesn't matter what genre you're in, it's
Right.
how you operate and how you communicate with the world and how you fit into the musical sphere, I think.
Right. And I think what you said, what you touched on is that when you really hone a craft and dedicate yourself to that, you become part of a tradition that is much older than, that has been there long before you and will go on. Like you're a link in a long chain, and you become aware of that, and you're like, I'm here to continue this tradition, and that's, I feel that connects people, and it doesn't matter, like, so much where we come from. And as you said yourself, you maybe came from a different, background or than some of your peers, but like in the moment of like singing together, it's totally irrelevant where.
We got on. We learned to get on, and
Yeah.
that was the beauty of it. It was different. It was at a
Yeah.
time when not everyone was different, and we didn't have
Right.
enough diversity. And I used to
Right.
do it differently. I was brought up by my grandparents at the time, so my grandparents
Okay.
would take me into school. I would come in, like, they would drive a Ford Fiesta car. Everyone else would be in their Range Rovers and the Porsches and the Lamborghinis, and it was, you know what kids are like. It wasn't
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
their fault. That's just the way it was. But I
Yeah.
tell
Yeah.
it gave me some amazing morals, some
Right.
amazing, get up and go, some good
Right.
dedication. Saturday,
Right.
I used to perform on a Sunday. There was no doubt.
Right.
It was,
Right.
it was dedication.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And do you feel like this is very interesting, Saskia? I thank you very much for this opportunity. This is really, do you feel like basically everyone was, I'm going to use the word now in a very conscious way, critiqued or assessed, or I mean, we could say judged, but judge is the wrong word, but it was about your singing. Like at the end of it, like I mean, the reason you were there was because of your voice, I guess, right?
Absolutely. But at the same time, I think it was also about building my confidence. It was about me finding my independence, but being with
Right.
people and understanding that I was a little bit darker skinned, I had curly hair.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I sounded like a girl and I looked like a girl and all this other stuff. And I was different. And yeah, sometimes it's hard being different, but it's also a beauty in being different. So,
Yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
for me, it was about finding my place in the world, but
Yeah.
around people that were striving for good things and that had
Yeah.
amazing things. I went to someone's toilet one day, I'll tell you this story. I went to a toilet and I looked up on the wall and I was like, what are these gold medals on the wall? Came out the door, I was like, Georgia, what are these gold medals on the wall? Oh, don't worry, my dad is an Olympic gold pentathlete 5 times over, and there's a silver and a bronze. And I was like, why are they in your toilet? What are they doing there? I was like, yes,
Yeah.
but this is the kind of people I was going to school with. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blessed, ponies in the backyard,
Wow.
big farmhouses. I was in a
Yeah.
council, it
Uh-huh.
was two different worlds, but it
Yeah.
really worked. And it was
Yeah.
beautiful.
Huh. Wow, that's a very inspiring and a very, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
God, and it's really solidified my love in God and my resilience as well, and my
Yeah.
persistence, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I
Sorry,
mean,
I'm like Saskia, I'm always deep.
no, I appreciate. So here are my questions. Here's kind of the things that I can talk more about my projects. I'm not sure what you want me to talk about. We can talk about the projects, but I think, in a sense, I'm as curious about what has led you to create this podcast, and what has led you to kind of, explore these themes in the world of music, as much as, what leads people like me to pursue the projects that I'm pursuing. I mean, I can say very, very quickly, so this one project, around the Grail story, kind of reframing the Grail narrative.
Yeah,
It's a story that we all grew up with, and King Arthur, and I
like, there was
and
one,
and
but you've got more than one. So
Yeah, well, but so we'll talk about it because it's about this question of God today. It's about the question of how do we so I was very fascinated with this idea of the Grail and kind of the history of the Grail and the Grail both in Christianity but also before Christian. It's a pre-Christian kind of an ideal in the world that we all are striving for, but that comes from some that's not really of this world, so to speak. Like the Son of Man, you could say, and 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 in music, in classical music, obviously, when you say Grail or when you say Parsifal, everyone thinks of Wagner. That's the go-to because of his opera and kind of the 19th century image of the Grail quest as an individual, search for truth or meaning or redemption or whatever, but like on an individual level,
in a level,
which is
yeah.
which is a very which is a very important, but I would say a kind of 19th century ideal in that we've I feel like today the question is not so much how can I be different from some, like how am I different from you, meaning how am I more individual, but rather you know what connects us, meaning how can we together, how does the Grail become a collaborative you know journey together rather than just an individual
Collective.
going off on do you understand? I think that's
I do.
so the interesting thing about the original German myth, Wolfram von Eschenbach, 12th century, medieval, it's like an oral poem, 26,000 lines long, whatever, that Wagner based his opera on, is that it's really a story about the individuals
Quest.
learning, meeting all these other characters, all these other people that are all related to him, that are all part of, a single family, and people that are by the very last person he meets is the person that's the most different from him but the most closely related, and they have this fight and they're going to kill each other, and then they stop and they ask each other, who are you? And they realize that they're in fact related and they're half brothers, and Feirefez is neither Christian nor white nor on any of these things, and it was 12th century, so it was during the time of the Crusades, so you had this a lot of like movement of cultures, and that's really only through these meetings of alterity, of otherness, like that and reconciling kind of underlying,
Difference and making it.
well, reconciling that actually we're all one family, we all come from the same place and we're all going to the same place, so it's like the differences that we encounter and the diversity, so to say, that we establish among ourselves, which is like necessary and is positive, is transient,
Absolutely. It reminds me,
is
I like the planets. Sorry for interrupting
no,
you.
no, go ahead.
It's one of my favorites because it reminds me of going from different planets and you meet different people along the way. You know,
Uh-huh. Yes, is this from which, the Little Prince?
no, not the Little Prince. Was it Handel? Was it Beethoven?
Oh, Gustav, the planets, Holst. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
One of my
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And so,
It's beautiful, that one.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that is the kind of the mission
In
of music for our time, so to speak, is that we are we live in a moment today where, and then if you bring in this whole conversation on AI and all of this, creates a whole other level
Wow.
but if we have to figure out a way, um,
For understanding it.
yeah, to identify with something larger than our unique individuality. I mean, in a sense, I don't know how to say. In a sense, I don't know if that's the
It does make sense to me. I know exactly what you're saying because it's like for me, I'm thinking of the planets. They're all different, but they're in this one universe. So
right. Exactly. Yeah,
collectively together, that's beautiful. On their
yeah,
own, they've all got their faults. They're all
yeah,
great. Really,
yeah.
we're not.
Right, right.
But united together, they're beautiful and they stand strong. And
Yeah,
it's magical.
exactly. So what is your goal with this podcast? I'm curious. How do you see your work in with these questions? And I'm going to flip it around now. I'm going to interview you for a little bit.
Music, and I've been doing this for a while now. I want to
Hmm.
stay consistent. I want to bring out music, but sometimes there's always financial barriers or things.
Hmm.
I know I need to build a fan base. I need to get out there. I need to network and make connections, which
Yeah,
I have. But this builds meaningful relationships. Not
yeah,
this as a platform. It tells the story. It shows realness, authenticity, the thing
yeah,
that brings us all together,
yeah.
regardless from our backgrounds. And
Right.
that's exactly why I did this. Actually,
Wow.
yeah, thanks for asking, Amanda.
My pleasure. And I mean, congratulations, Saskia. I think it's very brave of you. It's very noble. And I really encourage you. And I think, I can say, um, it's like we have to, I feel like what I sense from you as a person and from what I kind of saw what you were doing is that there's an attempt to move beyond the polarization or beyond the, you know, the kind of like fragmentation, I mean, into
I'm intersectional myself, so I can relate.
I understand. No. I mean, we all are. We all are. Like I've had, I've had, but what do you call it? Polarized crises all the time, every second day. Like
I don't live like that. That's not how I live my life. I get
right,
people from all different backgrounds, regardless of what they're from, or their
right,
background. The
right,
people matter. It's people that matter.
right,
People are good people.
right,
Find those similarities, like you said, and work on those rather than
right,
and build solid foundations.
right.
That's so
Yeah, right. So, and you're interested in interviewing people from all around the world, basically, and anyone who's yeah,
industry professionals, artists, anyone in the music industry.
music, yeah,
So that's
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'm wondering. Um, so I had a very interesting. So part of in within this Parzival and Fearfish project, I met a very interesting man. Um, his name is Kwasi Dunyo. He's from Ghana. He's a West African Ghanaian drum master. He's also like a shaman
Yeah.
kind of priest in his village, and he has like 45 kids, multiple wives. So it's a whole. He basically is the patriarch for the whole village, and the first conversation we had, we spoke about 2 hours about reincarnation, because his whole kind of understanding of music and of life and I think his kind of spiritual philosophy is all based on that. And I come also from a background, I'm very connected to that, but nothing to like from a very different um how should I say from a very different spiritual stream, so to speak. But also interested in and looking at reincarnation, the questions of reincarnation, and what does that mean, and kind of the cyclical nature of music, that kind of these things, go in cycles and they come back throughout history.
Film you
And
sorry to interrupt you there. There's a good film called The Soul by Disney. Have you watched it?
no,
My goodness me, you need to go and watch it. It's all
the
about,
soul, like the spirit, the soul. Disney, like Disney Studio, Disney, Walt Disney.
oh my goodness,
Wow.
go and check it out. It's all about
It's
jazz
all,
music in different
it's all
places.
about what?
It's about jazz music. It's all
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
you get recycled and you go in this little loop and you go and come back round and get given a body and you have to do certain things. But it depends on your personality,
Wow.
your talents. You know, it's amazing. You love it.
Uh-huh. That I will definitely look it up. And I will definitely, I think what I'm thinking is it would be interesting in your podcast to have a conversation where you're interviewing a musician and someone from another non-music field,
Wasn't it?
um, and you can, and you think about the questions beforehand, kind of, but like, how does
I love it.
I'm trying to say, like, how to, I mean, basically, here's how, very simply put, there's, I think that, the big question in AI today is morality,
Yeah.
is an, ultimately it's an ethical, the biggest challenge, it's not technological, it's ethical, it's moral. It's like, can we build, you know in intelligence, a super intelligence with general whatever, that will be moral enough to, like, not destroy us. Like, that's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. And where where is morality or ethical capacity cultivated in the sense of aesthetics, in the sense of beauty.
Wow, that's going to get lost, isn't it? And so is emotion. If there are,
Yes, we feel when something is right or wrong,
yes.
and we feel when something is right or wrong based on if it's true or not true, which is connected to if it's beautiful or not beautiful. Like,
Oh, yeah.
beauty has a connect beauty, truth, and goodness, which is like, the free, liberté, égalité, fraternité. Like, it's, these things are all, and today we've translated those into equity, diversity, and inclusion. But that Trinity, it's kind of like, if you want to think of the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, like, it's and in what's happened in the arts a little bit is we've kind of like removed beauty as like a, if it's politically correct, if it checks these boxes, if it's blah blah whatever. But it's like, we don't always talk about beauty as like, in a sense, the fundamental, I'm going to use the word very, the purpose of music is to remind us that beauty is like real, and that it's like, like, it's like very necessary for our morality. I don't know, like that's like, I, kind of. And so what I'm thinking is if you brought in like a musician and, like, I don't know, a lawyer, like someone who's like in law, or someone who's in some research, or someone who's in AI, like you brought in people from other, and yes, like, less your podcast kind of ultimately is about music and is about, but I think it could be very interesting. I would be super interested to talk to, like, to have this conversation, and then to have a
That we work alongside, or maybe that might have something in common with our industry, right?
yeah, I don't know. It's because what I feel like what you're trying to do, and what I'm interested in, is you're trying to, not specialize even more, or break or separate even more. You're trying to, like, rebuild, like, make something whole again, not divide it, even like cut it more in half.
Got me. I'm so glad we met today, Emmanuel. You're awesome. You know this is on the podcast, right?
I guess, I mean, I'm just talking. I have no idea. Like we're just, we're just having a conversation. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking now.
Half the day, and I was like, this is the last one. I'm so glad you just put the cherry on my cake. This has been
Uh,
fantastic. Emmanuel,
well,
5 minutes left. How can
okay.
I with you find out more, listen to your music, and come and support you? How could they do that?
Yeah, well, I would say you can. I'm kind of all over the internet. There's like a YouTube channel. There's the album Resilience
Okay.
is on like all the streaming platforms. It was released by Warner. There's my website. So it's Emmanuel, and then there's Parsifal. There's a music festival here that I'm leading in the summer at a farm
Really?
called Concert Saint-Grégoire.
Ooh,
Saint-Grégoire. I'm going to be in Europe. Where are you? You're in England, London.
I'm in London, but I'd love
Yeah.
to.
I don't come to London often, but I hope to at some point.
Let's get
Um, yeah,
we need him in London. We need you in London. That would be nice.
sure. I would be honored. It would be a pleasure to. I have good friends, family friends in London, so I'll let you know when I come.
Yeah, please do. Thank you ever so
Yeah.
much. I'll leave all the links in the description. It's been an
Yeah.
absolute pleasure. We'll connect again. And yeah,
Yes. Thank you very much, Saskia. Bye bye.
don't go yet.